All right, welcome to the podcast. Today's opener, which may be a bit of more of an opener than we anticipated, so it might stretch a little bit longer, with no apologies, because we don't apologize here on this podcast.
No, you guys suck it up. No.
Deal with it, America. So the subject of our opener today is movies from like the 80s to the 2010s that have not aged well, or that we went back and we watched and were like, oh no, oh good, no. Mine, which may surprise some of you in the audience or even here, is School of Rock.
Oh yeah.
Because
with Jack Black.
Yeah. As a teacher, everything he does is against every single rule and law. Like, and it comes to a point where it's like, okay, no, my suspension of disbelief, unable to handle this.
Yeah.
There is no way he would have been allowed to do any of the things he did.
Didn't he steal a school bus?
He stole a school bus.
Yep.
He faked his identity as a teacher. He stole his buddy's license and put himself off as that.
Child endangerment.
Yeah, like
so bad.
He was making jokes with kids that were mildly inappropriate, like stuff that you're just like, it was funny in the late 90s, it's funny, but when you like sit and you look through the lens as a teacher, no, Jack, and he gets off scot-free, and they all come around and be like, oh, he's a hero. He's like, no, he legitimately should have been charged, and arrested, and probably served a bit of jail time, or had
the feel-good niceness and everything. Come on.
No, it's
his heart was in the right place.
It
Aaron.
was not. So here's the thing about that movie: he didn't earn any of it.
No,
he just kind of got away with it.
Yeah.
And his buddy's girlfriend got mad at him, and he got mad at him because you faked my name or whatever. But in the end,
he did have a positive impact on the kids. But I mean, that's about the only positive thing that happened in that movie.
Yeah, no, for me as a teacher, it's like I couldn't do any of those things in my classroom. I'd be fired. There would be phone calls. There would be letters. There would be issues.
To make the news.
Oh yeah, you couldn't do that, and it just is, as a teacher, it's sad because I can't enjoy that movie anymore. Like I think we went back and watched it once.
Yeah, we were both cringing.
And I was just like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. And it just kept getting worse. And I was like, all right, I can't enjoy this movie anymore. The soundtrack is great. Like it's I think, but it's just in a post age of 2022, even 2015, it doesn't feel.
Just as a teacher, it just hurts.
Well, and it's funny because it's lauded. Like people, like every couple of years, they put together the cast like reunions, and they get back together. Like, oh, it was so fun working with Jack Black, and it was a great movie. And it's like, no, I don't think you could make a movie like that today. Nope. And you could, it wouldn't. You couldn't have the same tenets and the same themes. It just wouldn't work. So that's my movie, Jack Black's School of Rock, which I'm sure is blasphemy to a numerous amount of people out there in the world, but I don't care. What do you guys got?
I'm going to go for Blasphemous 2 into Christmas. I don't think Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, has aged well either, and I love Home Alone. Yeah. And I would have said up until last year that I loved the sequel, but it's just the jokes are really old. Yeah. The bad guys should know by now not to go into the house.
Well, and it also
Kevin.
And we talked about this, is that Kevin, I think we even talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about it, yeah.
Kevin, it's malicious.
Yeah.
Kevin could go turn himself into the police and say, "Look, my parents we got mixed up on a flight. I need help. I'm lost. Please help me."
Yeah.
And
boom, movie's over with.
Right. But the thing is that, and also, like, he takes his dad's credit card.
Yeah, credit card fraud thing would not work.
And charges his dad's account, like, thousands of dollars. And he just, like, he goes through so many machinations in order to get the Plaza Hotel and all these other things. And it just,
That's why I have my theory that Kevin's as a sociopath.
Okay. Well...
He enjoys inflicting pain on people.
We can dig into that at some point in a future podcast. But
look at his older brother. I mean,
it is hard to watch that movie though, because you get to a certain point and it's no longer funny.
Yeah,
it's now just mean. And I think that's the problem with a sequel to a movie such as Home Alone is that you can't recapture the magic of that original, and not a lot of movies can ever have a sequel that really recaptures that magic. There are exceptions to that rule. James, what is your movie that hasn't aged well?
Oh man, I'm going further back.
Okay.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh, okay.
Think of all the themes things that are in that movie.
Well, that's like, what, 60s movies? 60s, 70s?
What, Revenge of the Nerds?
Yeah.
That's an 80s movie.
80s movie, okay. So, yeah, a lot of those movies were very, like risque and like
Yeah.
jokes were funny probably
And
at the
everybody's
time.
like stereotypes,
Yeah,
like hardcore
yeah,
bad
tropes,
stereotypes,
like very heavy
Yeah.
tropes.
That's what I'm saying. Like you couldn't make that now.
No.
Like that
Well, and I
movie
don't
would
even-
explode.
I don't even think it'd be funny.
No.
And it was. I mean, again, humor is generational in some ways. I think, which we'll talk about that here in a moment with the
Yeah.
show we've got coming.
Yeah.
But it's like funny is not always funny.
Yep.
And in a movie that doesn't age well, in the comedy world, it's definitely very apparent. Like, okay, these jokes are.
Inappropriate.
These are not just inappropriate, but they're old. Like they're not even funny anymore. Like the humor is lost.
Yeah, Megamind's another one.
Yeah.
We've talked about that hasn't
Yeah.
aged well.
No.
Yeah. No.
Don't like
The
Megamind.
themes in Megamind are just kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Who thought this would make a really good?
Yeah. It's funny when you
Ugh.
kind of grow up and you look at that and you go, oh, this is actually
See,
bad.
that's why I brought up Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
Because like when you grow up, like watching it as a kid, I was kind of
Yeah.
like, haha, there's a lot of this funny slapsticky
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
in
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then going back to it as an adult and looking at it again, I'm like,
Oh,
whoa, no.
Yeah, no, this is bad.
no, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do in this next, as we go into our intro here in a second, you may have noticed a voice you're not familiar with on the show. Her name is
Vicki.
and she's my wife, and she's a fellow nerd.
Yes.
And she's on the show today because last night, as a group, we watched the two movies we're going to talk about today. We watched Legend with Tim Curry and Tom Cruise and Mia Sara, and we watched Labyrinth with Jennifer Connelly and
David Bowie.
David
Come
Bowie.
on.
I apologize. David Bowie is a god among men in the music world, and a whole bunch of other stuff, including the Jim Henson as the director and the Jim Henson crew,
Yeah.
including his son and all that. So we're going to dig into that. We're going to explore it, open it up. Welcome back to a new episode of Nerds by Screenlight. My name is Aaron,
I'm James.
I'm Vicki.
and this is the show. Get ready, buckle in, hold on, strap in, and get ready for a double feature. It's time for Legend versus Labyrinth.
Get nerdy with me. Talk nerdy to me. Get nerdy with me. All I really need for you to do is just please
I can stop.
talk to me. Talk nerdy to me.
Two. All right, welcome back to the podcast.
And time to dance that magic dance.
That's the dance.
I was going to do it at some point.
So here, let's we're gonna dig into Legend first, because
Okay.
Legend is the one that also falls into the category of films that I watched as a kid and was like, have nostalgic memories of being like, oh, it was so amazing and oh, it was such a great movie. And then last night is the first time I revisited the movie in at least 15 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, we have some things to talk about. And what's interesting is, so Legend and Labyrinth, as just kind of set this scene, were filmed at the exact same time in the same studio, literally across the hall from each other.
Yeah.
So Legend's going on one side of the hall, on one side of the building, like literally across the hall. Labyrinth is going on here. And so the cast members from both movies would often cross paths and intermingle and engage. Fun fact, Mia Sara met Brian Henson, the son of Jim Henson,
Yep.
and they got to talking, and then a couple years later, they got married. And I don't know if they're still together, to be honest with you. I
They
think.
are, according to Wikipedia.
Oh, well, look at that.
Well, that's good.
A marriage came out of Legend and Labyrinth. And, so, yeah, because it was Hoggle and what's her name?
Lily.
Lily. So Hoggle and Lily got married.
Got married. Well, he was the voice of Hoggle.
Right,
didn't
he
do
wasn't
anything
actually
else,
in
yeah.
Hoggle. So there you go. There's your story. So it's interesting from the 80s perspective to look at these movies. But it's also interesting to look at it through the lens of the creative process that went into these and made these. And so what we're going to try and do, we'll start with Legend. Legend was directed by Ridley Scott,
Yep.
who is a legendary director. Like the man has put together some bangers. Like the dude's legit.
Yeah.
The Labyrinth was directed by Jim Henson. It was his last film as a director before he passed. And so you've got these two legendary directors. You've got legit actors and actresses filling those roles. Tom Cruise, of course, is the most one.
Cruise.
Yeah, Tom Cruise. So then you've got the other side. You got Jennifer Connelly. You've got David Bowie. You've got incredible Robert Picardo in Legend,
Yeah.
which is Robert Picardo was in.
He was in Legend. He was Meg Mucklebones,
he was-
the hag.
yeah,
he was all dressed up.
Yeah. So you've got all these actors that you know and love now today, and they mix themselves up in these movies.
Well, I
and-
mean, this is also, you have to remember, like, they're all, like, babies at this
Yeah,
time.
they're
Well, except for
all-
David Bowie. David Bowie was known.
Yeah.
He was very popular at
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody else was kind of like an unknown. Well, Jim Henson was known.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott was starting to get known because he did Blade Runner before.
Yeah.
He was working on another project when he conceived this
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
I forget which one it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of like, they were all kind of rising other than Bowie.
Yeah.
Bowie was already kind of like
Yeah.
up on that mountain.
So this is where they kind of got the big launch for what was going to be the big careers for the rest of them. So Legend. So here's the bright spot in Legend is Tim Curry, without question.
Yeah.
Tim Curry is legit in this movie, from the makeup, the costume, the voice,
Yeah.
the character. He is the darkness. And the nice thing about Tim Curry is, I mean, he had a stroke a couple years back, and it's not been doing great for him. But pre-stroke, Tim Curry at his like zenith is like just chewing scenery up.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen
terrifying.
to him as darkness is that voice.
Yeah.
The way he rumbles it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
The way he uses his like physicality.
yeah. He knows how to position himself. He knows how to take that scenery and just like dance on it and just wow.
Yeah.
So of all of the parts of this movie, Tim Curry owns every scene he's in. And it is just, you look forward to him. You're like, okay, please give me something, please. And he does. The movie starts with like a scrolling screen of text.
Yep.
Which, whenever that happens, you're always like, okay, were you not like good enough to figure out how to show this to us? You had to tell it to us. Like with Lord of the Rings, for example, when Lord of the Rings opens up, the 1st movie, they talk about, and they show you and narrate it through.
Yeah.
With this movie, it's just like, nope, we're just going to give you some stuff to read. It's homework. Enjoy.
Yeah.
I have a devil's advocate
Yeah.
point. What about
Fire
Star
away.
Wars though? Because they do that.
But that's Star Wars. Star Wars, that's what Star Wars does. Star Wars does the crawl. That's a property-specific thing that
Well,
you
I mean,
know
I
you're
think
going to
it's
get.
what you kind of. I don't know. It's difficult because some movies succeed at doing it,
Yeah.
others just utterly fail.
And this one fails.
And this one
one
kind
does
of
fail.
failed because I mean they were trying to set the mood immediately with like
Right.
that guy's voice and everything, reading it off,
yeah.
and it was kind of like it's just like a boring, weird thing. And he's talking about a lot of stuff where it's kind of like the light and dark. You really don't need to. You could just show
Right.
us that. You don't
Right.
really need
Yeah.
to like
I don't care about this.
beat us in the head about it.
Yeah. The other thing about Legend, the makeup and the practical makeup and
Oh,
the
it's
prosthetics,
gorgeous.
like it is legit. If for no other reason to watch this movie, but is to sit there and just like pause every moment. These guys, the goblins, are on screen, and it's just like I made the comparison that one of the goblins is very much like an early model of the orcs in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was Blix is the main.
Yeah, Blix. And it is just
goblin.
like with the nose. And all of that is just
Like
crazy
the dirty,
good.
nasty teeth too,
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah.
Like, just look at the details they poured into it.
Yeah.
Even Meg Mucklebones in the brief time you get her on the
She's
screen.
only on screen for what, a minute?
Yeah, and then
You don't
chop
forget
goes
her.
the head. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
look at her. She's
Yeah.
hideous.
They didn't skimp
It's amazing.
on any detail with her. And behind the scenes, these special effects guys worked their butts off
Oh, yeah.
trying to get this quality.
Well, I mean, Tim Curry himself, he had to sit in the chair for 5 to 6 hours a
Yep.
day before
It was
going on screen.
I wouldn't have known it was him. If
No,
you had told
yeah.
me just with the voice and the makeup, you couldn't tell. He was phenomenal.
Yep. Okay, so movie starts. How do we feel about how all this goes down?
Ugh. I was just kind of I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I get it. You're trying to tell us a fairy tale here.
Yep.
But like, there's no, you're kind of like creating a fairy tale out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so that's why you probably needed that whole chunk of text to kind of like, this is the fairy tale we're going to
Yeah.
tell you.
Right.
But it's in like blood red text.
Yeah. And like, it's
So it's
kind
like,
of like,
is this a fairy tale? It seems like
well,
it's
and then
more
when
like a
you
horror
meet the
movie.
characters,
It
like,
starts off like a horror movie
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
it's the darkness
yeah,
commanding his goblins to go do something bad.
There's
Right.
chopping. I don't know if we want
Oh
to
yeah,
say
you got to
what
see
it's-
the butchers that kind of chopping up a
right.
dude.
I made the note that hell is a terrible place. If this is what hell looks like
Yeah.
in the metaphor of what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
I mean, they accomplish letting you know this is a bad place. Bad things are
Well,
happening.
yeah, everything in here is like super heavy-handed.
Yeah. There's no slow approach. There's no subtlety.
No.
Subtlety is dead.
Yeah.
It's been chopped up, minced up, and put in the oven and cooked as a meat pie.
And it's not a metaphor. It's
They're
just literal.
they're
Yeah.
eating subtlety for dinner. It's over. So I don't know, like, but I know Tim Curry's voice. When I hear that voice, I know who I'm dealing with. I know exactly who's behind that voice. And like, I clued in. I was like, oh, thank God, Tim Curry. I've been missing this man. So yeah, the practical makeup's incredible. He stabs a dude in the head.
Well, yeah. Well, he didn't stab him in the head. Like we were wrong about that. He took the thing and kind of like put it on his forehead.
Oh, okay.
As kind of like a hint. That's why we didn't see like a stab wound, because remember he moves his hand later and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
He kind of took that, like it was a fork or something, and like kind of stuck it against Blix's head. It's like as like which is a new word I learned from this. I was surprised. I learned something from Legend. Alicorn is the horn.
Oh,
I know.
On a unicorn. I never knew that.
I didn't know that either. I had to Google it. I was like,
so yeah, it was kind of like that's why he was like, boom, one of these. Look for the horse is like one of these on it, and that's your target.
Talk about a heavy-handed reminder, though.
Yeah.
So
because Blix is a moron. Oh, all the goblins are kind of dumb.
That's true.
yeah, they're very
I mean,
self-centered.
they're cunning.
Yeah, but
You
they
can
are
see that-
self-centered.
Yeah, but they're self-centered and dumb.
and
so.
they like it. They think that they can overthrow the Lord of the Darkness or whatever. Which,
once they get the alicorn, they're like,
yeah, we're the bosses, and then Darkness shows up, and it's like, surprise, not really. So, okay, then we come to, like, as a child or like a teenager, I remember the next scenes, like just got the introduction of Mia Sara and her character, and
Lily.
I remembered it as better than it was. It's kind of terrible.
Yeah.
Like it's not well done
in their heavy-handed manner, because you said
Right.
it's not well done. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, blam, pretty princess.
Yeah, green, bright,
In your
sunshiny.
face.
Right, she's carefree. She walks.
She's
into the
happy.
sleep-
She's innocent.
Yeah.
She goes and steals other people's food.
Yeah, and they let her, and they're okay with
She
it.
destroys like the laundry being hung up and laughs
Oh,
and
yeah.
run away with no consequences. I'm like, she's a brat.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
like her.
She's not very nice.
Nope.
But it's like they're trying to establish the rules of this world that Lily can. She's
innocent
Right,
and pure.
right, and
in
so
that I totally
right. I can do whatever I want.
fashion.
And I think as viewing her through a character lens, she's not very strong at this point.
Nope.
You're like, I don't care. Like, why should I care about her? And you struggle for the rest of this film until she ends up in being captured and turned into, like, put in that dress and all those things.
Yeah.
At that point, you actually start to care a little bit because she actually starts to show some fire.
Yeah.
But up until that
got
point,
backbone.
she has none. She's a jellyfish.
Yeah.
And you're like, girl, what the heck? What is going on here?
Well, she's spoiled innocence. Because, I mean, obviously she's a princess.
Right.
She's covered in her finery. And she just goes out here to mess around in the forest to have fun.
Right, that's true.
And be innocent
No conflict
and pure.
in her entire
Whatever.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the problem is they don't set that table well.
No, they
Like,
don't.
No.
Well, I mean, that table they showed us was set well.
yeah.
But yeah, they didn't really give us too much to go with her
Yeah.
at this point.
It's kind of like the scenery's really pretty, but the story and the substance is kind of.
Yeah, you kind of failed in that, Ridley Scott. Yeah, that feels bad to say that because I love his movies so much. I'm like, oh,
This one was not his strongest at all. It was far from it. So she tells like the lady who's like her like friend / person, whatever, Lily, you need to behave like a lady, you're royalty. And there is no mention of her royalty ever again.
Yeah.
She's a princess, but we're not given the indication. Is she the heir? Is she what part of the family does she like? Where is her family?
Yeah.
Are they missing her? Like,
well, that was an intentional thing apparently because they didn't want to show. They didn't want to like show like humanity, the greater humanity or whatever that's out there, the kingdom and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the
she's
problem
from.
is they don't really define what humanity is.
Yeah, they don't.
'Cause-
That's the problem when you cut that out. Is
Right.
Snip, snip.
Right.
It's kind of like, well, then what are we comparing things
Right. Where are our boundary lines?
to? Yeah.
Because like Tom Cruise's character, who we meet shortly,
Yeah.
is not human.
Well, he's sort of human. It's
In
weird.
one of the
confusing.
in one
It's
of the
not clear.
drafts or cut scenes or cut that wasn't shot, they allude to or confirm that Tom Cruise's character is actually an immortal.
No,
Oh.
he's Jack O'Green.
Yeah.
Which is his full name.
Yeah.
And he's a play on. I talked with Vicki about this while we were having breakfast
Mm-hmm.
at Zazie. He's a green man.
Okay.
Now,
Child of the forest.
childhood of the forest.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of like green men. There's many different types and
Yeah.
varieties of them.
Right.
And
Is the Jolly Green Giant in there somewhere?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, you could actually call the Jolly Green Giant a Green Man.
Okay.
In a way, because they're usually they're
he is green after all.
They're I guess you could say in like an elemental form they're kind of like demigods of the forest.
James completely ignored my pun.
Yeah, I did.
He's too involved. And
well, because I think it's a concept that's kind of weird. Because I bet you everybody has seen a symbol of the Green Man at somewhere. It's usually you'll see them in the like facial structures, usually in gardening places too,
right?
Where it's like a human face, and they'll have like the leaves and stuff around them.
Interesting you should mention that. So the guy, whoever he is, who's actually in disguise, he is actually green.
Yes.
So he is almost more or less kind of. Like he's a brother, apparently.
He's one of the dwarves or whatever that kind of went to their side.
But he's not really a dwarf. When he's unmasked, he looks a lot like a Tom Cruise like character, human like.
Yeah. So that's who Tom like Jack is supposed to be as a Green Man.
Okay.
That's how he can talk to the trees. And the creatures and everything else like that. So he's kind of like part of that nature aspect of things, and not really. He's not 100% human.
Okay.
He's human-like, but he's not.
I think the struggle here from a storytelling perspective is they didn't build their world well enough.
Nope.
And so you're left to go, okay, so who's who and what's what?
They think this guy looks like Peter Pan. Who is
he?
And it even gets down the road to when they transition, like they go into this cave or they go into the fairy world or something.
Yeah.
And because at the end of the movie, like they go back through something and they wave to everybody.
Yeah, goodbye.
And then it's like weird. It's like, okay, but wait, before they were all together, why is it? Where's the line? Where's the door? Where's the walls? What are you doing with this house?
It's like a rushed little like here's the ending. Bam.
Right. And you didn't explain.
Everything's happy now.
Right. And now you got to figure out, okay, well, what does that mean here and here and here now?
And then you get Darkness laughing over them.
Right. As if he's coming back or there's going to be a sequel, which God help us.
He explained it.
Yeah.
Well, Darkness basically explained it when they killed. They didn't kill him, but
they sent him into the ether.
He chucked him out into the void.
Right.
Which they never really explained.
Well, it's kind of like Sauron. Sauron like lives on unless you destroy his ring, and maybe their intent was to be like, well, Darkness is still out there in the world.
Yes.
But he can't form because
they're doing that bigger picture thing where there's light and darkness, and they have to exist together.
Right.
But you just can't have
except
one.
That they killed Darkness.
Well, the thing is, they banished him, but
they didn't really explain.
There.
They didn't explain that though.
They didn't.
I was left going, so why is Darkness laughing? I don't understand. No one's told me or showed
he's
me.
Still inside of them, especially Lily.
Right.
Which I think there is a bit of symbolism. Remember that ring she gets and she chucks into the water because she's playing games with Jack?
Right. Well, whoever finds him marries me.
Yeah. It has the stones on it, and half of it is black, half of it's white.
Oh. Okay. So perhaps she is the hairbringer of the peace of good and evil.
Or something like that. Or it's just because, in every human you have light and dark. In every kind of thing you have light and dark, whatever.
But we never explore that ring's meaning either, do we?
Yeah, no, you don't. Yeah. It's just there.
Yeah.
It's just a little thing where I noticed it. Yeah. Where it's just kind of like, oh, here's a tidbit.
It's Chekhov's gun, basically.
Yeah.
It's something that's there because he goes back and he dives for it and gets it at the end of the movie.
To bring her back.
And like I'm going to save her with a ring, which we don't know its power.
No.
We don't know its capabilities.
No.
We don't know its connection to her.
It's just a symbol.
It's just there.
Yeah. Because, it's like the creatures of the forest and everything. They're good. They're pure. That's light.
It feels like a really, really wacky episode of Captain Planet.
Yeah. Like, this is very ham-fisted.
With my ring of power, our power, light, sun, earth.
Oh.
With our powers combined, we are the darkness or the I don't know.
Oh, whatever. It's one of those things. It's just the thing about her because she's human. Well, she's the human out of all of them.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's like, she's light and darkness together because she's the human.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it any better. It makes it worse.
No,
almost.
like I said, because this is a very ham-fisted movie.
Yeah.
They didn't take time to make things too subtle. It's more like, here's a club.
The ham fists.
And we're just gonna
we're wrapped in bacon, like smothered in ham with sausage fingers. It's a ham.
Yeah.
It's a pig hand. Okay. There's a lot of pig on this hand. Where did my note here? So Tom Cruise is here.
Yep. There you go.
Oh boy, he's pretty.
Yep.
And I know that was the point of it. Like you got Tom Cruise because he's pretty.
Yep.
And he was, what was it? He was 19 at the time of filming. So he was a young Tom Cruise, not quite even really.
Well, he wasn't famous at this time.
He wasn't famous.
This
is
time. Like part of his ramp where he exploded, and then he was everywhere.
Yep. Unicorns show up, and this scene frustrated all three of us. I think.
Yes.
Yes.
And why was it frustrating? Like, start at the beginning of this whole mess.
So it's, well, from the female perspective,
Yeah.
there's the guy that you like, and he's all like, oh, trust me, oh no, don't go near them. But there's no explanation as to why.
Yeah.
Don't give the information, and then he gets mad at her and said, you didn't understand all this stuff fell apart.
And oh, by
You
the
didn't say
way,
anything.
you've brought about the Armageddon of our existence.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Just explain.
Well,
I mean, that's the thing with older fairy tales.
Right.
Usually, the main character, whoever we're gonna have,
Yeah.
they get a warning.
Yeah.
But because there's no backing to that warning to explain why this is so
Right.
important and why you don't break these rules,
You should just trust what I say. I don't
there's
have to
your
explain
falling
myself.
action right there,
Right.
where everything goes into the pooper
Yeah.
in a way. Because this is like, that's what they did in olden time fairy tales. So this is like, I mean, again, this is Ridley Scott's kind of fairy tale movie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which, like I said, is very ham-fisted. So that's kind of like, well,
Well,
Jack laid out the rule. Don't go near him.
Right.
Don't move.
Yeah.
Watch.
But here's the thing.
I'm showing you something fantastic.
Here's the thing about that, though. So she gets the blame for the entire situation.
Yeah.
The reality of it is that it was the goblins shooting them
Poison dart.
and then cutting off the unicorn horn.
Yep.
That's what brought about the end.
See, this is the part I didn't understand. They explained it kind of in the beginning, where
Right.
it took like to get near the unicorns, you have to be a pure person, and yada 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 yada.
But the guys weren't like, the unicorns were just hanging around. The goblins could have shot them from a distance and done their
at any
business.
time.
At any point. There wasn't like, oh, the only way you can kill a unicorn if it's standing still or if it's
or
whatever.
like because of her purity and her touching them.
Right.
Did it lower their defenses so then the goblin could shoot it?
It destroyed their pureness, and now they are no longer immune to violence. Like
So that's what I was saying. It's like they're beginning scroll thing when they talk about the things that can get close to unicorns, pure things, blah blah blah
Right.
blah 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 blah. I'm like,
I
so that's why it didn't make
read any of that,
sense.
if I'm honest.
Yeah, it didn't
I
make
checked out
sense
halfway
with
through.
what happened to the unicorn then, where it's kind of like, well, is it because she touched it and that
Right.
was her sin, and
Right.
that's why her defenses were down and they could shoot that one
And then cut off its thing.
and then cut off the alicorn? Well, they poisoned it, and that's why it falls into
Right.
the thing and whatever. And it's kind of like, okay, so is that what her sin was, and that's why
Right.
it was so bad? But you didn't really explain that well enough, so
Yeah.
it's just confusing at this
It was
point.
just like, it's all your fault.
Yeah,
And
it's all
it
your fault,
wasn't.
and
Not
there's
all her
tears and stuff
fault.
all the time, and whatever.
Right. Here's what I think is, I think that if she had in the act, so again, revisions, we do this sometimes on the show where we look at a scene or a movie or a moment, we go, okay, here's how it would have been done better. It would have been done better if he had been like, don't touch the unicorn. But she's like, but I want to, it's so pretty. Don't touch it, you'll hurt it. But I want to touch it. And she touches the unicorn, pats it, and then the unicorn, like, the knees buckle, and the unicorn hits the ground and starts to go, and like falls over and is dying, and all of a sudden the snow starts to come. And Jack goes, you've killed us all. She's like, what? I just want to touch it. He's like, you're so selfish. You didn't think about any of us. There's your conflict. Now she is the spoiled brat. Now she is the indifferent princess. Now she has to own that. And then, like, maybe Jack doesn't know about the goblins, okay? He says, okay, well, we got to run. We got to go seek shelter because it's over. Like, the storm, the weather, we have to run because the lightning's going to come, or something bad's going to come. The darkness is coming now because there's only one unicorn.
Yeah, because even he didn't fully understand what was going on either.
Right.
Even though he knew it was bad to get near the unicorns,
Right.
whatever, touch them.
Yeah.
Which is something like, it irritated me a little bit. It was like, you know how bad this is, Jack.
Yeah, and you didn't.
You don't understand all of it, but you know this is really, really bad.
And you didn't stop her.
Like, you could have tackled her at any moment
Yep.
and been like, no.
Or told her, you're going to end the world, girl. Please stop.
Yeah.
So what could have happened is, okay, so the knees buckled, the unicorn goes down, and Jennifer Connelly's character goes, oh my God, what have I done? And,
Well, not Jennifer Connelly.
or
Mia
sorry,
Sara.
Mia Sara. Sorry, I'm mixing them up.
It's okay.
So then, like, they run away or they seek shelter because the storm is getting really bad. And then unbeknownst to them, or
Well,
maybe
they didn't run away together. Remember, he was underwater when everything froze.
Right.
Because they were
Right.
playing the game of the ring.
I'm going alternative
okay,
scripting here.
yeah,
Okay, just go with me on
Right,
this.
go.
So they go and
Go
they
ahead,
hide
Jenny.
somewhere, or they go under like a overhang, and they see the unicorn dying or in death, and they go, what will we do? What will we do? And then maybe Jack sees the whole unicorn still breathing, and goes, wait, he's still alive. Maybe we can save him. But before they can get to save the unicorn, the goblins show up, cut off the alicorn, and that's when all hell really breaks loose, and they run off. And Jack and Lily go, we should have stayed with the unicorn. Now we have to chase it. What this also can do, and because Lily probably would have got captured anyway, I mean, it would have made for it made for a very interesting dynamic between her and Tim Curry's conversations and how she does. But if they were more together in the search for the alicorn, and then maybe the goblins got to Lily when Jack's back was turned, or Jack was fighting them as a distraction, and one of them captured Lily and took her away, and then they found the other unicorn and got her, and then now Jack has to go get his friends and go do, that would have been more of an interesting story than this ham-fisted, bacon-wrapped, drizzling on fire, grease fire that we got. Yeah. Because it's like, it doesn't make narrative sense to do all these different pieces. And she runs away and they get separated. And Lily's looking for her. And I'm just like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this whole being lost in the forest bit. So those are my feelings on that whole, it just only gets worse from here.
Oh yeah, it does.
I said, look, movie, we got to start some conflict here soon, because it's very dreamy and
Well, I mean, because even with the unicorns being spooked and running away, and her breaking that rule. Yeah. What do her and Jack go do? They go have some more fun, whatever, and then she chucks the ring by saying, that whole thing about marrying and whatever, and makes him dive into the water. Yeah. Meanwhile, if you cut the scene, the unicorn loses its horn, and then everything flash freezes. Yeah. And then Jack is stuck under the ice and has to break out. And that's realizing,
tension. Right, something's gone wrong. It just doesn't feel right. It feels like it could have been done a lot better. We talked about the orcs as they're traveling through the innocent world, and how they're all sweaty.
The goblins, they're greasy. Yeah.
The greasy, and I like that detail because they're out of their element. They are not in the darkness. They are not in the chamber room. They are not in the throne room. They are in a world that probably offends them in every straight sense of the word. Mm-hmm. And so they're sweaty and they're uncomfortable. They don't want to be here any more than they have to.
Well, they don't look as scary.
Yeah, even darkness is kind of greasy when you see him. How shiny he is.
Yeah. So it is kind of a cool detail that they did there. So who has I made a note, immortal soul. Is that Jack or Lily? There was a line about an immortal soul, and I was like, what?
You got me. They might be talking about Lily.
It might be. A storm is coming. I'll marry whoever. I think he says you've destroyed your immortal soul, or my immortal soul, or something. I don't remember the line, but I just had a note of immortal soul. What the heck? And then super dramatic. A storm is coming. I'll marry whoever finds this ring, and then just. Oh, the frozen baby doll.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the frozen. I pointed this one out because
we had to rewind it. So she goes back to the house where her friend.
Yeah, everything's flash frozen right now.
I've never seen this baby before, even though we've been in the house. Yeah. And suddenly there's a baby. That's frozen.
It's a doll, I think.
Yeah.
That's I think, but it's never stated, and I didn't want to do much research because it's just I don't.
Well, I mean, because in the next scene you see the frozen adults, so I was kind of are they implying everything flash? So all those people are just straight up dead.
And I wish that they would have explored that a little better, because it's I want to see more of that. I want them to walk through a small village where everyone's flash frozen and everything's frozen, and that amps up the oh my God, we've destroyed, because it also means we have to fix this. Yeah, we have to get these people back to normal, and that there's never really that impetuous of we have to fix these and save these people. It's we have to do it because this is what we have to do. There's no reason with anyone that they know.
I mean, you don't really get the reasoning till the Gump explains a little more later. Yeah. But that comes, midway through the movie where the Gump is really trying to explain stuff. It's kind of
Also, did you know the unicorn, the alicorn, or whatever you call it? Yeah. It has power like a wand from a magician. Yeah. Ka-choo, 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 ka-choo. Yeah. It should not have any power except in the hands or on the head of a unicorn. That suggests that anyone can wield this unicorn thing and destroy
like a magic wand or something like that.
I don't understand that at all. The one other bright spot is Gump is really well acted. Yeah. This dude was, I think I said he was 19 years old. Mm-hmm. Kid was 19 years old when he plays this role, and he just seals that in just amazing ways. That's where my notes end on I gave up writing with Legend.
See, and then you get your Jack's squad shows up. And that's where you get the Gump, who's supposed to represent a wood elf. Right. Which is basically kind of like your classic elves that hide in nature kind of
thing. Then you have your actual dwarves.
You have dwarves.
Yep. And they're really
comic relief.
Yeah. Which are your comic relief throughout the
And I liked them.
And the dwarves actually had some good lines and comedy moments.
Yeah, they do.
Wasn't one named Screwball or something?
Yeah, Screwball.
Yeah.
Because he always screws up.
Yeah.
so much Screwball. So yeah, and they're
and
like,
then you have Una, your classic fairy / sprite.
And she's able to be an actual full size person.
And that's her secret, which is kind of like...
Yeah,
whatever.
how does... I mean, I get it because it works within the storyline, but it's also kind of like a Deus Ex Machina. Like, it's like, okay, so she can do that to get the keys, she can do that to do this. Like, it's not a character feature that's interesting. It's just we need her to be able to go upstairs and help Screwball up, get the keys. Like, she's... The only reason why she becomes big is to do the big people things.
Well, yeah, it's because they kind of failed in really explaining...
Right.
Like, going... like years of Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. I have flashbacks of fey creatures because one dungeon master I played with loved these things. Yeah. And there's so many different varieties and how they interact with everything else. And like some of them are good. Yeah. Some of them are just straight up tricksters, good at heart, and some of them actually are just kind of malicious.
Right. There's a lot of variations within that.
Yeah. So like that's why I'm really it's like you need to kind of explain Una a little better. Yeah. Like what's her deal?
Yeah. They don't.
And they don't.
They treat
her
like
you kind of have to
Tinkerbell.
rely on it. Yeah. They treat her like Tinkerbell, but she's more of an adultish Tinkerbell because like other fairy folk, she's a trickster one. Yep. Which is why she's playing with Jack the whole time.
Right. Oh, kiss me, Jack, kiss me, Jack, kiss me,
Jack.
Jack.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like some of the fae folk love preying on humans and enjoy kind of like messing with their emotions and things like that. So she's playing with Jack because she likes him and has her own attraction to him. Yeah. And that's why she trying to play that trick on him and becomes like Lily in that scene and everything else because she wants a reward. She wants to get something out of him. Yeah. And it's kind of like at least he sees through the illusion.
Right. Yeah, that was interesting.
It's so weird that Hamfist. I'm like that whole interaction of a fae folk preying on a human person. That's a whole movie in itself. Yeah. Not just some weird awkward thing kind of jammed in there.
And it doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
like that power is never revisited.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not all that upset about it.
No,
she just kind of whimpers and moves on. I was like,
and then comes up.
Did you even really like him? Like,
Well, then Gump says, "Oh, you've screwed us all. You've ended our lives." And then she shows up with the keys. It's like, okay, so that immediate threat. Like when you talk about writing a character, right, or carrying a story, there needs to be a threat of danger, and that threat of danger needs to be earned, and it needs to be real. Because if you have like the varying names of it as Chekhov's gun, Deus Ex Machina, like machine. What is it called? How do you say it?
Deus Ex
There it is. Deus Ex Machina. I can't say it really well.
It's all right.
But like it's those variations of something that just comes in to save the day.
Yeah.
And in this moment, it's like you're like, oh no, she's gone. They're in trouble. What are they going to do? They're going to get set on fire. Oh no! And then it's like
5 seconds later, boom.
Here's the keys.
Yeah.
Where like. I want them to be in danger. I want them to have to figure out how to save themselves.
Or even have like the Gump, who's like kind of like the wise one of the group, make a comment where it's kind of like that's how important it is. She's giving up on her nature, which is to be that kind of like angry thing at that point to help us. Yeah. But no one says squat.
Nope. It just kind of moves on to the next scene. A lot of this movie is that. It's like, oh, here's a tantalizing piece of mythology of the story that we could have delved into. Moving on. Next subject. Now for something completely different.
Well, I mean, it's also interesting, like reading Wikipedia about this. Yeah. Like you learn that this movie was like over 2 hours long.
Yeah,
at
2.5 hours, 3 hours. Yeah.
And then they just chopped it down into this hour and 10 minutes.
Yep. It's a shorter one. Thankfully, I will investigate the director's cut because I hear it's a little different in how it plays out. But yeah, it feels long because it's just you get as a viewer, you just kind of get to a point where you're like, could you just take us to the end? Yeah, I'm done. Just write it. Just shut the lights off. Turn off the film. I don't even need to see the end of this thing.
Just tell me how it ended.
Just tell me how it ends. Give me that red text. Give me that crawl. Tell me what goes on. Send me home. I'm done. I've had enough. I'm tapping out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't have any notes from the rest of this. So they're in the Darkness's house, and they're coming up with ways to save Lily.
Yeah, it's the ancient underground underneath this huge tree.
And there's some scenes which are really cool where they kind of are walking through a hallway and all of a sudden these random beasts appear. Yeah. The thing about this movie that I don't like... Huh?
Yes, you don't get a good look at him.
Right.
I was interested, and then it moved on and never came back or explained
So here's an interesting comparison. So when we take that and we compare it against the movie we're going to talk about here in a little bit, the power of Labyrinth is they spend those moments on those characters and they give us meaning behind them. There's a reason why this character spends 30 seconds on our screen. Like the googly-eyed creatures in the labyrinth who are talking and saying things, or even just watching. Like, they don't make an appearance ever again, but you see them and you see them interact with her and you go, ooh, I bet there's more of them. And as you go through the movie, you're like, I wonder if they're in the corner over there. Like, ooh, that's kind of cool. Like, you start to create a storyline for them. You see them and you understand what they are. In Legend, you don't. They're just hairy, weird beasts that, oh, we gotta run. Okay, close the door. Okay. That was scary. Not
what was
really.
that?
What was that? What was that?
It was the fire
Don't
gang.
know.
Fire gang. The fire gang had to work on both shoots.
Music's amazing.
Yeah.
So I just it's so dark. And I get it, like dark and foreboding. It's the darkness, okay, whatever. But let me see it.
Yeah.
Let me see what this world is. You can still do dark and foreboding without like totally shutting off all the lights to save on your power bill that you're having to fork over at the end of the shoot. There's just a lot of that in this movie, and it's just disappointing. It really makes me sad. We get Lily tempted by the jewelry.
Yeah, the very, like, we talked about this
falls
over.
so flat.
Yeah, it's supposed to be him tempting her and trying to seduce her into the dark side.
Yeah.
Pull out those dark things that are in her that she wants. Because obviously, like, when she looks at the jewels at first, she's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, wait, no, and then puts them down, whatever. So it's kind of like, all right, there's a bit of that in there.
Right.
You want these things.
Well, then she goes into the dance.
But he's so the dance, because the fancy dress. It's like a shadow version of her.
Right, which makes you wonder, okay, were you trying to say that she had surrendered and was now part of the darkness, or was this just the
temptation?
Or was this just a, like, physical change in dress that you had so that she was not looking normal?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean,
I'm not sure what the word is I'm looking for.
I think he was trying
Cosmetic.
to make her
There it
into
is.
what he thought she should be.
But that she accepted it.
It wasn't her.
But she accepted it. That's the problem I have here.
Well, I don't have
For
a problem with it
second.
because I think what it is, like, we talked about the light and the dark and how they're mixed in a human.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like we got her in the beginning. She's pure and
But they
whatever.
don't explain
and then
that.
they go through the movie, like, at the time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, this is a ham-fisted thing,
Right.
and they don't explain it. But, like, at the time when she's in his dungeon, her white dress, her purity is kind of dirty.
Right.
And then they show her that beautiful black dress.
Right.
And what she could be and
Right.
whatever. It's part of the whole seduction thing.
Right.
Their ham-fisted seduction thing.
Right.
And then, bam, she's in a fancy black dress.
Right.
And, it's kind of like, okay, so this is her showing the other side of her
Right.
versus, like, the princess we have at the start.
So here's an alternate writing of that scene, right?
Yeah.
So she dances with it, and I talked about this as we were watching it. I was like, okay, part of this I can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, they're just dancing, and then all of a sudden she becomes the marionette, where she's dancing with the figure.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, now I'm getting it. Like, maybe he's controlling her. She's falling into the motions, and then again she disappears. That they get together again, and then what would have helped is that if they'd had his voice as the marionette and said, dance with me,
Yeah.
the darkness is in you, I know it, feel it in your heart, it's rising to the top. And maybe she goes, yes, I feel the darkness.
Not even being that powerful, because that's where he kind of fails,
Right.
like when he tries to, like, force
Right.
the things on her later at the dinner table thing
Yeah.
where they're
Yeah.
talking about
But
that.
no, but like just that idea of
Yeah.
speaking to the darkness.
Yeah.
And maybe that darkness comes out and she goes, yes, I am the darkness. And in that moment, ka-chow, the dress comes on and she and when you see movie characters kind of they have that manic, like, yeah, I got it. And you're like, oh, I regret everything I've just done.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now, and then she looks down and she goes, what have I done?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't want this. And he goes, well, you're stuck with it now. You're
Yep.
in my house. You're in my world. You have turned to the dark side. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then she goes, no, I'll never be dark. He's like, well, you look like you've got the clothes. Act it or something. So then she tries to remove it, and he says, it's on you, girl. You cannot shake your darkness. And maybe in that moment she goes, the darkness is always part of me. He's like, ha ha, the darkness is you. And then you have where she says, okay, now I'm going to because she convinces him so quickly that she's going to cut the unicorn thing. Like, she spent a good 10 minutes fighting him, right?
Yep.
I don't want to do this. You can't make me.
And
he's
then
like,
suddenly it's like, yeah,
and then she's like,
knock off the
but if
unicorn.
I
That's
got it.
just
And he's just like, okay, yeah. But wait, this girl she told you she wasn't doing it, and she did a pretty good job of it. In this scene, Mia Sara is really strong. I love her acting chops in this entire kind of scene.
This is the best scenes with her character, I think, is when she's just like, they're having that argument at that table where she's just like, no, you can't have me. You can't have any of this.
Right. But he turns so quickly to being like, okay, sure, yeah, you can cut the unicorn's heads off or horn off, and there's no suspicion. There's no like, are you really going to do it? I don't trust you. I'm going to make sure. Like, he just goes with it. And it's like his intelligence and his mean, awful darkness.
Yeah.
You've just broken all of what you've built since the beginning.
Yeah, this sinister bad guy is a moron.
Yeah, he's an idiot. Oh,
I wonder if it's his ego. It's like, of course she would fall for me.
Yeah,
but she just got done telling him no. She's got telling him, no, I'm not doing it. I'll never do it.
And he threw his temper tantrums, smashing stuff around.
And then all of a sudden, she's like, "Wee!" And he's just like a small little like teenage boy going, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. Oh. That is not what you built. Like, you can't build that character up and then totally take him and just lobotomize him.
Yeah.
You just don't. And that's my there's a lot of pieces of this movie that are a struggle. I've identified a lot of them.
Yeah.
But there's a moment of just like, okay. And because you're like, well, he gave up on her that easy. He gave her the knife to go cut the thing. Okay, it's over. Movie's done. He's going to die. No questions. He doesn't put up a fight. He doesn't try and like, oh, maybe this could be bad for me. I don't know. And that's a disservice to the character, I think, as well, because it's just like, come on, buddy. You know she's going to mess with you. You know she, like, get your head on straight, bud. But he doesn't. And he ends
doesn't
up dying.
happen.
So, yeah, so that whole scene. And
there's the weird scene where they fight the ogres or demons or whatever. They think in the subtitles of the movie they call them demons.
Oh,
they got the cooker, the guys that cook stuff
in the kitchen, whatever.
Yeah. Where it's kind of like, wait, the demons got boiled alive, but no one else did.
Yeah,
I don't.
So the fires of like the darkness, the fires of hell, as I called them, they were lit up, and the whole kitchen's on fire, and then they go to fight with them because somebody drops the shield and makes a loud noise because it's comic relief, and that actually was okay.
Yeah.
But then the fight is just
because you see, like, I think it's kind of cool. Is like you see them at the start, and they're like working like clockwork. They got this down.
Yeah.
And then they just have that one accident. Yeah. And it's kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
The
comic relief isn't overplayed in that scene, which we talked about as we watched. We said, okay, this works. They're not just dumb idiots who can't keep their things, can't hold on to things very well. They're not, they're actually good. So then they have the fight, and there are parts. There's a lot of parts of this movie where I just checked out, and I really didn't care. And this was one of them. I was just like, And so then they like.
Well, I only made the jokey thing. It's like, look, that's how you fight in like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, where you just dodge.
Yeah, dodge. And it doesn't like they they pour water, and so the steam knocks them out or something.
Yeah.
And I don't get that. I'm just like, what are you doing? I think what happened is the writers were like, okay, how do we get him out of here?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Well, we've got a lot of fire. Yeah. I just put some steam on him. That'll knock him out. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things like before they even enter in the tree, they show that Jack can commit acts of violence.
Yes.
Like when he chops off Meg's head.
Yeah.
And okay. And then it seems like as soon as they enter in this place, it's like, Jack, why don't you fight these guys?
Yeah.
Like there's all kinds of weapons and implements around.
But
in his fight with darkness, he tries to grab weapons, and darkness won't let him. Yeah. But it's one of those things like, why are you not fighting now?
It's inconsistent character work.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. There's much of this movie falls into that category.
Yeah, much of this movie falls into that category.
Should we explain who Meg is, or just?
Meg Mucklebones is a hag, which is another type of fey creature which tend to be evil.
They're also called like water hags.
Yeah, there's versions of hags.
Yep.
Because there's ones that live in forests and stuff too. Yep. But yeah, she's a hag. So it's like an evil old kind of woman thing that like a lot of people like, you could say like witches in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's a fey creature that tries to gets fooled by them because they call her pretty and whatever. And when in her moment of distraction, like Jack gives her the chop, cuts her head off.
Yeah.
And then they conveniently forget about the magical sword they picked up.
Right. So that
whatever.
We struggle with that because we're like, where's the sword? Where is it? Who's got it? And the shield.
Holes in this movie.
Shield goes away, but they still have it, and they don't have it.
Because I mean, they made it an important part of things. Like, we need to get weapons.
Right.
And they have Una take Jack to go get some weapons and armor.
Yeah. They go into that cave and all that.
And then it's just kind of like thrown to the side.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like you either need to make your story where it's kind of like consistent where the good guys don't commit acts of violence, or just be like, okay, we need to have at least one of our guys be violent.
Right. Yeah.
you can't play this weird middle ground because it kind of messes everything up.
It's a hot mess.
Yeah.
So then he gets into him and Gump go into the unicorn killing.
Well, yeah,
place.
the chamber, but then they set up the mirrors, because sunlight's the only thing that can hurt darkness.
Right, and so
that confused me. By the way, I was expecting some big thing to happen with the light, and I don't think it ever did.
It did. So because this movie is so unable to tell a concrete narrative, there are moments where I genuinely did check out. This was a moment where I didn't check out.
Okay.
So I stayed. I held on to the bars of the ride, and I made my eyes stay wide open.
Yep.
I said, "Okay, here we go. I'm gonna watch it." I didn't say it in that tone, but that's what I felt like. So Screwball is up top, and he's supposed to put the thing up to catch the sun and reflect it down. Don't really know how that works. Don't really care. But then whatever Tinkerbell has to fly up
and wake him up.
And he doesn't just wake up right away. She's like, Screwball, wake up.
Yeah. Well, because he's tired and old.
He's a dwarf, and they all apparently sleep. That's the trope. But he hasn't been sleeping until now. Like, again.
So confused.
Consistent character work, please.
Yeah.
So she wakes him up finally, and the fight is going on down in the basement of the darkness's little sub basement.
Oh man, 'cause you see I guess maybe they forget about the pressed eggs partway through, but you see darkness is riddled with arrows.
Yeah.
Gump and Jack did a number on him.
Yeah, they tried to kill him.
Gump kept shooting.
It doesn't faze him. He's just like.
Yep, keeps going.
Yeah, and he keeps chucking. You see them. They release 2 arrows at one. That one time, Jack falls down. Whatever. But Gump is up there still shooting.
Yeah.
And they kind of forget to tell you that.
Yeah.
But they do give you one good shot where you see 4 other arrows are inside him. Where it's
And he's still
Gump
going.
is still trying.
Yeah.
He's just failing.
Yeah. And again, if you had more of that, showing that to us, we would have amped it up and you can't take down darkness. This dude's it's gonna require the light. So then finally, Screwball gets whatever. Tinkerbell wakes up Screwball.
Yeah.
Screwball gets up. I think the light, and I love this moment stylistically. So the light reflects down the hole. They've lined up all these shields. So it
bounces all the light off it.
And the worry is because the door's closed, the light's not going to go through. Because when they got through, the door closed, and then what's his bucket?
You have the kind of traitor guy, the dwarf that was dressed up as a goblin, whatever.
So he's banging on the door trying to get through. So the light, you're like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? You're waiting. I love this moment because you don't know. Yeah. You have no idea what's going to happen next. And this moment in this movie, it works so well. Because you're just it's happening so quickly, and the battle's happening, and boom, 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 it's cutting back and forth, and you're just like, oh, what's going to happen? And so the light comes down the hallway, hits the final shield, and blasts the heck through that door in an explosion, sending our traitor through the door as well.
He goes flying.
Boosh! And you're like, light has the ultimate power. Light can knock down doors. And I love that because that's actual strong storytelling, world building. If you had told me that before, anyway.
Yeah,
so,
and just before that moment, you got Jack actually picks up the alicorn and jabs darkness with it.
Right.
And that's why darkness is kind of frozen as he pulls it out, and then the light hits him. Bing.
Right. And then it knocks him back. And they had not shown us this before, but there's an outlet into space,
into a void. I don't know what that. They don't explain it at all.
No, it's just
there.
Yeah, it's like, hi, I'm the void. How you doing? Hey, darkness, come to me. And you're like, why? Where? How? Who? What?
There's stars in the void. It's not just black nothingness.
That's why it's space, but it's kind
the
of
final
void,
frontier.
Whatever. Because this is a gateway into it.
Darkness.
And I like that it shows light doesn't destroy darkness. It pushes him back.
Yeah, and he goes into the ether, and he's gone, and then
remember, he's resisting.
Yeah.
He's hanging on there. And then Jack chops off his hand, which they never show you to you. That's how he gets the alicorn back.
Oh, I was wondering.
Because he had the alicorn in his hand while he's clawed onto the thing. And then Jack grabs a weapon, chops his hand off, and he drops the alicorn. They don't show the grievous injury that would have come. I mean, they're okay with doing the decapitation, but they won't show a hand falling on the ground. And darkness flies out into the void, and there's alicorn on the ground.
See, that's the part where I stopped paying attention, so I don't remember any of that. I checked out. I was like, this is a movie that wants to want to punch in the face.
Yeah,
repeatedly.
And that's how they get the alicorn back instead of it ending up into the void with darkness.
So darkness goes out. They grab the alicorn in what feels like a Lord of the Rings too many endings to count. Like we go and he doesn't first go and fix the unicorn. No. He dives for the ring.
Well, because he's got to save Lily.
Right, because she's dying or whatever.
She was knocked out.
But we don't really know her condition.
Yeah.
And so he dives.
Well, they make some sort of comment where like, oh, she can't wake up right now, and blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of one of those fairy tale things. All right, she needs a kiss or a first love or something like that. And I'm sorry, I feel really lame at this point. This movie, I kept watching and paying attention. That's how I know all these details.
You're a better man
but
than
I felt it was torturing me as I was doing this.
This is the movie they're going to show to POWs in a future World War. Yeah. Be like, you will tell us everything you know. I won't tell you anything. Then we shall make you watch Legend 40 times. I'll tell you everything. Please, God, no.
It's going to be like, Clockwork Orange where they pry the guy's eyes open and make him watch all that stuff. It's like, here, we're going to make you watch Legend.
Do you think Mystery Science Theater would do this one?
Oh, my God. They would love it. They would tear this thing apart.
Right into the show. We have an idea.
Please. I don't know if they can get a license, though, because that's why with Mystery Science Theater 3000, they're able to get permission to watch these movies.
It is Tom Cruise.
Well, it's not even Tom Cruise. It would have to be through the management company and the production company and the directors and all that.
And Ridley Scott, you'd have to talk to him.
Yeah, talk to him. And I don't know if Ridley Scott is talking to anybody these days. So, okay, so he goes, then dives for the ring and brings it up with his hand above the water. And you're like,
and everything's going to be all right.
Yeah, I don't need the hero shot. Thank you very much.
And I believe it's Gump that replaces the Alicorn.
Is it Gump?
Yeah, it's not even our main character.
I was checking out. I continued to check out because there's just like, okay, because the unicorn's not dead, which you told me that. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, that was confusing.
Yeah.
Why isn't the unicorn dead? Why?
Well, because he's not moving, and he goes, "Forgive me" to like his friend who's forlorn. He seems like he's dead.
Yeah, it's over.
It's unclear.
And I wish that they would have been like, well, you have to give the alicorn has to be something has to happen to the alicorn to return the world to its normal state. We have to
which is to get the balance between light and dark, which they don't really explain.
Right.
That's why the unicorn can't really die, because it's part of the light. And just like darkness can't die, the unicorn really can't die.
The look on James's face is just
I'm dead inside at this point.
The bridge is on fire.
I'm waiting for the magic dance is in the background, waiting to revive me, just like replacing the alicorn.
Yeah,
it's gonna be David Bowie.
Yeah,
touching me. But no, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like I'm sitting there and it's just like, okay, get all this stuff, all this allegory, get all this out of the way, please, God, make this end.
Please, dear Lord in heaven.
In this movie.
I was like, you were so heavy-handed, I felt assaulted.
It does feel very preachy at times.
Yes.
Like even as Darkness dying, it's not even desperate. He's just like, just so you know, I will never die.
Yeah, it's like, you can't get rid of me. You can't destroy me.
It's like, throw punch the guy and get him on his way. Get him out of here. Get the flamethrower,
and so,
Jack.
attached to the horn, Lily's awake, everything, the light returns to the world, and everything's green and happy again. We have no idea what happened to that frozen family, by the way. They never even crossed that bridge.
Baby or whatever.
Yeah.
Apparently, they might be still alive.
But everything's all right. And then in this version, because Vicki was good enough to find the alternate endings to this, I didn't know there was alternate endings shot. In this version, we get the everything's happy and they're waving goodbye to the Fae folk.
Going somewhere else.
Yeah, they're walking into the sunset, and then you get darkness laughing over them, and then boom, end. Right. It's like, what? I mean, we get it, light and dark. You can't really destroy each other. They're yin yang and whatever. But it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is heavy-handed.
Yeah, it didn't feel great. What were the other two endings?
So there's the director's cut in which Jack tries to convince Lily this was all a dream, and she imagined it. And she figures out that it wasn't a dream, and then it kind of goes, we're two different people.
Let's just be friends.
It's not you, it's me.
And the rest of our experience.
Makes me so happy, and it usually, which shows how much I don't like this movie, because I like happy endings, and I'm happy that they broke up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the director's version is like almost 3 hours long.
Yeah.
It's a beast.
Well, I mean, again, it's like he belongs to the forest, and you are a princess of the human people that we never got to see, really, and don't really care too much about.
Yeah.
So I'd say that ending makes sense in that way, but it's also one of those things where it's kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
All right. What all this about love and whatever, and then that's how you break it up. It's like,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, not so much.
Whatever.
So, thus ends Legend, which it did not do well for
the
my
other
childhood.
ending was the one where they don't have darkness laughing over top of them. They just
ride off into the sunset.
They ride off into the sunset.
I'll take the
sunset
over this. This was ugh. Anyway, so that's Legend. We have hit 52 minutes. We're going to probably split this episode up now.
Yeah, now we're going to move on to part 2, which is going to come next week, where we talk about Labyrinth,
which is going to be very much of a more positive. So what is our rating of this movie compared to what we thought of it as in our childhood?
I didn't see it as a kid.
You're a lucky
I got
lady.
bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Because other members of my family watched it.
When we were in high school, Tim Curry, I was a theater kid, and Tim Curry was a god in the theater world. Between Clue and every other movie he's been in, we adored the man. So it was on constant, we would watch it as high school students or we'd talk about it, and it was it's so great, Tim Curry. I think because of the Tim Curryness, we kind of ignored the rest of the schlock and mess. Yeah. So I think as a kid, as a high school student or middle school student, I would have been 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. Now looking at it, as a 39-year-old, maybe a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
And the only reason it's 4 out of 10 is Tim Curry.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's generous.
Well, okay, 5 out of 10 because Mia Sara's acting chops in the middle is significant.
Yeah.
And she really shows her true ability and talent.
Yeah.
And they let her be the character she needs to be.
Yeah. A stronger character than what she
4.5. Let's call it even on that.
Well, see, that's why last night I gave it, like I said, it's like the solid 4 when you guys asked me. Yeah. Because I was like, Tim Curry, Mia Sara, when she actually got to act, is that's what was running through my brain. I was just thinking about it. I was like, all right, Tim Curry is great as Darkness. Yeah. He belonged in a better movie.
Yeah.
And then Mia Sara, when she finally got to act and became was fighting with Darkness, whatever, I was kind of like, great, give me more of this.
I would watch
Sadly,
this.
We
I would
did not
watch
get
this movie versus everything else we've just suffered through.
Yeah, we didn't get too much of that, but it was really powerful at that time, and I was kind of like, all right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then also all the cinematography that went into this, all that makeup work and everything else.
Special
I was like, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what gives me that bump this movie up. And you're all right, there's a bunch of side things there. The story is just so bad. Yeah. I'm just like, if you would have put a better story, same actors and same
I could have done
makeup and everything else.
I could have done without Tom Cruise.
Yeah. He's
just there. This is the thing about Tom Cruise, and this is a personal opinion.
No, go ahead.
He plays the same kind of character in all his movies.
Yeah.
There is not a lot of range, and this is probably blasphemy to a few people. There's not a lot of range with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that.
He's not playing he's not in the leagues of Dustin Hoffman.
Oh no.
Or a Leo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Or a Jean Reno from Ronin and all those. He is nowhere near the acting chops of his contemporaries.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, because Tim Curry's Darkness is a way more interesting character than Jack.
Well, but
more interesting character.
You look at Tom Cruise's movies. I mean, he's most well known now for his Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah.
And in those movies, he's an action star, and he's just all powerful. And there's not a lot of range aside from oh my god.
Yeah.
I think we could have done with a better actor in that role, which is interesting. We did almost get. Who are my 3? I wrote it down because I was curious. Yeah. So. The people that they considered for the role of Jack was Jim Carrey.
What?
Oh my god!
Which would have been a disaster.
That would have been so weird.
Johnny Depp.
Ooh, that could have been
which
cool.
would have been interesting.
Yes.
That would have been
a young Johnny Depp.
Yeah, very young
loved
Johnny
that.
Depp.
Or Robert Downey Jr.
Young
Too dry.
Downey Jr.
Too dry.
I don't know if it would have worked.
I would have preferred Depp out of those.
Yeah.
That you just.
Well, and younger
Depp.
younger Depp. One of his first roles was in the TV series 24 Jump Street.
Yeah.
And he was really good in that show. So Johnny and Depp,
he would have been really good.
Depp is also a contemporary of Tom Cruise, and his range is a lot better than anything that Tom Cruise puts together. And God bless him and pray for his Scientologist soul. Tom Cruise has had a long and storied career, and he keeps making movies, but they're all kind of the same kind of feel, and it just
I feel like Tom Cruise was a much bigger deal in the 90s.
But he was still the same character.
And then, but I feel like you wouldn't be that offensive to audiences today. I feel like
I think older folks like us would probably understand Tom Cruise more than the newer folks. Younger kids would just not care.
Yeah, I feel like these days Tom Cruise is the Scientology guy, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot more awareness there.
Yeah, now if we had said this 20 years ago, people would probably come for us.
We would have been skinned alive by the Maverick fans.
Not Tom Cruise!
Top Gun, no! It's the most perfect movie ever.
Oh God, let's not. I don't want to watch that movie because I know I know it's going to be problematic from every angle.
Oh yeah.
Because has the sequel come out yet, or is it on its way?
I think it's still on its way.
Yeah, it's still on its way. They're really leaning hard on the nostalgia there. What's interesting is that his co-stars Val Kilmer and Kelly Preston. Val Kilmer, his story right now.
Kelly Mcgillis.
McGillis. In neither of them, and I'm not going to say that they don't look great, but they are not in a good place. Val Kilmer's story about his voice and that whole situation, there's actually a documentary about him and his journey.
Yeah, he shot it himself too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so that on the scale of Val Kilmer versus Steven Seagal, Val Kilmer is still functional and like I'm okay with him. Yeah. Steven Seagal is just nuts. And then Kelly McGillis, she hasn't been in Hollywood for a long time, so she hasn't worked. She's just being her. But it's interesting looking at the stars of that movie and where they are now.
Yeah, the
only ones that are really still in the world is Cruise. And it's interesting that you couldn't bring back certain parts of that story because those people aren't in acting anymore. They aren't acting as much.
Well, yeah, they're not acting as much, I would say. So I know some of the other like Tom Skerritt and Michael Ironsides, they're still around. Yeah. Because I know Michael Ironsides does a lot of he does voice acting. He doesn't so much do acting anymore. Yeah.
So there you go. So yeah, this movie was not a pleasant one to watch. It had its moments.
Do not recommend.
I think if you're looking to look at a movie with special effects that are legit, with characterizations from certain actors that is legit, and if you're looking to kind of look at a movie that really tries, well, it doesn't even try hard. It tries enough that it makes a thing. It's worth checking out, at least because it's a part of our 80s nostalgia.
Yeah.
It tries to be in its visual appeal, but not in its storytelling.
Yeah.
Nope, not so much. So there you go. There's the disappointment in the 80s that we've come to realize. Legend, which is unfortunate. But there you go. You can't always be perfect.
And it didn't become a legend.
It did.
It's a legend in the wrong way.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is like one of those old stories where they tell you, this is what not to do.
Yeah. Don't make a movie like this, Seamus. It's a terrible thing.
Yes.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Learn from this one.
Yeah, learn from this one.
What not to do.
Don't do this. All right, my name is Aaron.
I'm James.
I'm Vicki.
And this has been Nerds by Screenlight. Stand by for the next week. So give us a week and you'll be back with us where we're going to be talking about one of the greatest movies of all time, at least in my opinion.
Oh, I agree.
It's
Labyrinth.
a good one.
So we're going to hit the pause button and start recording, but you'll hear us in a week. Stick around. Check out some other podcasts on createatmorgan.org, and we will see you.
And take care, everybody.
Absolutely, in the next one.
The raspberry flapovers will be out in a moment. The kitchen is closed.
You've been listening to the Nerds by Screenlight podcast, presented by Create at Morgan Productions, located in Fort Morgan, Colorado, USA. For more information on our production house, other podcasts hosted here, and further details, please visit www.createatmorgan.org. You can find us on Twitter at the handle CreateAtMorgan. Create at Morgan is a school club at Lincoln High School, our alternative education campus in Morgan County. Our sponsor is Aaron DeLay, a language arts teacher at Lincoln. Send any feedback to adelayedteacher@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to our podcast.